Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet PsychPAL, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. PsychPAL listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations, and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. PsychPAL keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPAL. PsychPAL, because your mind deserves a companion too.
That's how you want last time. I don't want to be normal, you know I will not die. You can try it no more, just so you can kill my time. All the times that I've told you, still got my pedal through the metal. Told you I'll be immobile, that's how you want last time. I don't want to be normal, so you can stay inside. That's why they say that you're local, you see this world is mine. I'm not even your hope for them time. I'm taking mode, I'm loading, I will show them no more. So that's how you one last time. I don't know what's so hard, can you get it through your mind?
Welcome into another exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. Before I introduce my guest today, you all should go definitely check out my friends from PsychPAL. Use the description in the link to this episode and go try it out. And then if you really like it, guys, I did some work for you. I got you a little something, 20% off your first month subscription. I know I'm a great guy. Just use Pete at checkout for that. With that being said, today's guest is, let me tell you right now, has an interesting story and an interesting past. Please welcome in Echo. Echo, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hi guys, I'm Echo from the UK. I've got a bit of a sore throat right now, but I'm just privileged to be here with Pete and have this opportunity to have a chat.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming in. I know you have a very interesting story to tell, needless to say. So wherever you want to start, give me a little more feedback about you. I know you're a published writer for books, you life coach, lawyer, business owner, like the list goes on, man. Like you've accomplished a lot though from what you've gone through though.
Definitely. Well, I'll just start with about my journey. Just a little bit about me. So my journey started in childhood. Okay, so I grew up in a really abusive home, and although the domestic violence was not about me, it wasn't directed at me personally. It completely shaped my environment of growing up. So home never felt emotionally safe. It was never a safe place to be. Um, it was a place where nobody was allowed in the home, so there was no friends allowed in the home. Um, we used to take to, I had 3 siblings. We used to take to sleeping in our clothes and socks and shoes because we didn't know whether or not we would be getting taken by the police that night and placed in foster care. Um, so it was very unstable. And when chaos surrounds us, I think the body learns to normalize fear. Um, so my upbringing was one of, I can't even say, it was the only nice thing I can say about it is I was loved by my siblings and my mum. Um, so I've got no good childhood memories, there's not one. So basically, alongside that, there was a lot of abuse. I suffered a lot of abuse. I was the youngest stepchild. Um, and it was only as I sort of grew older and obviously all my siblings moved out early and I didn't understand why. A child shouldn't really leave the home until sort of you've got money together and you've got money for a house or, to go and do something. But all my siblings had left before the age of 16.
Yeah.
Like they'd all left the home. They'd all either moved in with a boyfriend or whatnot. So for me, I was in and out of care. So I was kind of like left my mum's home. But before that happened, basically, the abuser I'll say. I can happily say that now because I've gone through all my therapy and stuff, so I'm happy to talk about it. Um, Out of all of us children, there was obviously it came to light what had happened because my sister found my diary, okay, and everything was in my diary. I kept a diary,
Oh
like a
no.
diary of Anne Frank, okay, everything was in my diary. So my elder sister found it, and obviously the police were called and whatnot. So he was no longer a part of our family at that point. But he was arrested, obviously. The case went to court. At the time, there was not just me, but there was my three siblings. There was his own daughter, his ex-wife, all against him for all the same things for sexual abuse. Okay, one was rape inside marriage, which was his ex-wife. Um, so a couple of people had gone before me into court. I took it was my turn to take the stand, and obviously I was only a child at this point. I think if I'm not mistaken, I must have been about 12, I think 13, and I started to testify. I got up on the stand, I swore on the oath and things, and after about 20 minutes, and I believe before I got up, everyone on the stand he was laughing at. He was smirking and he was laughing, thinking, whatever kind of thing. I think I'd been up for about half an hour maybe, and then I'd seen him talking to his barrister, and next minute it was adjourned for like time out. And the next thing I knew was all charges except mine had been you will plead guilty to my charge only as long as all the others get left on file. Um, he got a life sentence for my charges and 4 years to run concurrent, and a lifetime on the register. We didn't have a choice in that matter, to be fair. It was taken out of our hands. And I do believe that up until a few years ago, I think I was kind of blamed, not for what had happened, but for the fact that only my case was heard. So he went to jail, but he went to jail for me. And it was like they they didn't matter kind of thing. So I think some of my siblings held a lot of resentment in that respect, which was kind of hard for me to deal with. I went into the care system. It was voluntary, by the way, the care system. I wasn't removed. I had a good relationship with my mum, and then it went sort of up and down, and I'm closer than ever to her now. Um, Went into the care system, went a bit off the rails, and it was the trauma. To be fair, it was the trauma because I think as a child you don't understand how to process trauma.
Hmm.
It's not a thing you don't know what the word actually means. All you know is you've got all these sort of emotions going on and all these sort of like nightmares and, these triggers, but you can't identify them. So from the care system, I got my own place. I had a social worker. I got my own place when I was just before I was 15.
Yeah.
And it was a flat. Absolutely loved it, to be fair. And then what did I do then? I had my daughter at the age of 18. That was my sanity. Um, that was my sanity. That was my turning point. That was my
Yeah.
turning point to get in here and resolve everything.
Yeah, that's a lot though. I mean, you went through a lot as a kid though. Did it affect your relationships though going forward? It had to. Like every time you got into a certain situation, something had to trigger, you know what I'm saying? Like your relationships had to be really hard for you at that point for everything you've gone through, even the assault, because it's like, now you get in those certain situations and you're just like you get triggered back to that moment. Did you have a lot of like PTSD moments like that?
Yeah, I think for me, it was not feeling like I was sort of good enough kind of thing.
Hmm.
So I think for me, it had a major hit on my self-esteem and my confidence as a female. Um, and a sort of, I didn't really, to be honest, I've only really had, I'd say, like I'd say three serious, and the third one, I've been married to for over 20 years. Uh,
Yeah.
and he takes me for all my flaws. He's sort of dealt with everything with me. So I even married him again last year after 20 years. But yeah, I think that it was little things triggered me. I could be in a supermarket and I could smell a certain
Mhm.
aftershave, which I can still name. It was called Aramis. And I would literally squeeze because it just brought a lot of things back. It's like a trigger for me. Um, it was a trigger if I seen like males with certain type of moustaches,
Mhm.
would be a trigger. If I seen a certain car, that would be a trigger as well. Um, and I didn't know these were triggers until I actually went through years of counselling and therapy. I didn't know what these were. I just went into full blown panic mode, panic attack mode, you know. Um, the breathing, I couldn't breathe. I was, it was a full on anxiety attack. And it was only when
Yeah.
I had my daughter, I thought I need to address this now, because it's messing with my life. And when I had my daughter, I was no longer with my daughter's father. Um, and it was really brutal, to be fair, because I went into like this overprotection mode.
Mhm.
Um, what obviously I'd experienced as a child, I felt like, well, nobody's sort of getting near my child, and so. But I didn't want to kind of like have the same regimented rulings what I lived by as a child, because our childhood, it wasn't just. I don't know what your childhood was like, Pete. Okay, I don't know whether you were allowed friends in the house or whether you had to do things. Our childhood was extreme, and when I say extreme, it was we'd get up before breakfast, okay? We would all have to clean the house. The house was spotless, by the way. This would mean before school, go and clean the kitchen, go and clean the morning room, living room, polish, hoover, mop, everything, okay? On a weekend, our time, we had this bathroom and it was ceiling to floor, black mirrored tiles, ceiling to floor. We would have to clean every single time. If there was one streak on that tile, they would all have to be done again. Okay. Sundays, we would have to do everybody's ironing. As a child, it's not what you do.
Yeah.
Then,
No, you're good.
if if we like my brother was a tearaway, okay, he was an absolute tearaway. And I don't blame him, obviously, because he went through things as well. But if we were naughty, and I don't know whether this goes, I speak about it like it's normal. I had this a few weeks ago on holiday, and we were talking about uh, the cane at school when you used to be at school, and it was acceptable for the cane and stuff. And I just come out in conversation like, in our house, if we were naughty, we would get sent to shop, and it was a little shop, and we have to go and buy a plant cane. Do the black thin canes, what you hold plants up with,
Yeah.
one of them. And we knew when we were getting back, we were getting beat with this cane, right? And I can laugh about it now because I don't think we were the only family for that. I think a lot of families, my friend used to get the Barbie doll, which would hurt a lot
Yeah.
more. And I was blessed because I didn't really get the cane that much. I think I only went to the shop about 3 times. But that was the kind of thing. And I always swore after I had my daughter, my home would be an emotionally safe space for my kids. Open door, emotionally emotionally safe environment. No raised
Yeah.
voices, no arguments, nothing. And I've always maintained that, to be fair. Um, so I'll let you talk. I'm not taking over your.
No, you're good. No, I'm listening because it's so interesting because, it's a good question. You think about it because, like, your relationships to that point had to be interesting because, like, everything has happened. Your perspective on things is way different, though. But now you had a daughter, and now you've got to worry about like what if it happens to her. You know what I mean? Like that's obviously your first thought coming to your mind. It's like, oh hell no, I'm not letting her go through the same things I went through. I know when we were kids. We got the belt and stuff like that. But you knew like when you got a couple swats and you're good to go. My mom, on the other hand, she was really abusive at times. Like she beat this tar out of me one time. I remember, I don't even remember what it was, man, but she was like stomping me like she's trying to put out a fire. I do remember that much. Me and her never really got along because she was going to try to control everything and I never really went along with that. So when I moved in with my dad, because she dropped me at his doorstep one day, she got mad at me and just took me over and dropped me in the front doorsteps and left me there. So I was abandoned. You know, I was left alone for a lot of time by myself though when I was younger because like my dad was at work and then his girlfriend he was staying with at the time, she was she was working too. So I spent a lot of time. So like I'd walk to school because the school wasn't too far away. So I was in junior high when this first happened. So I'd walk down to school and come back home and I'd have a lot of time to myself, and then we moved around a little bit like freshman year of high school. I had more time to myself. I didn't really know many people. I didn't really talk to many people because I was just like, okay, well, I don't know how long I'm going to stay here. So what's the point of making friends? It wasn't until sophomore year when I had more time that I made a lot more friends and I talked to different people. And, I started dating people and did more activities. I didn't really stay home too much. I usually hung out with a bunch of friends and things like that. But it was hard at first because it's like I don't know how long I'm going to be here in these situations, because his job at the time had us moving a lot, doing different things because he was a commercial printer. So he kind of go where the jobs are paying, kind of things like that. But yeah, we got our ass beat as a kid a lot of times. Like my mom was the one that she was the most aggressive one too. My dad would yell a lot though, but it's different. Like you could tell how mad he was based on what he was saying to you. If he's real quiet, you knew you were in trouble. You knew you were in for an obliteration because he was just like real quiet. He's talking to you, and you're like you're my mom, on the other hand, she was more of a yeller, and then she'd yell you by your first name. Okay, you're gonna yell a little bit. Middle name, maybe get a pop. First, middle, last name. Oh, you better get ready because you can hear her coming, dun, 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 like stomping on the stairs. And I can remember she just come crushing up those stairs, whip open the doors, just start yelling at you like Malcolm in the Middle's mom, just start yelling at everybody. Like it was just yeah, yeah, and I had a brother and I have two brothers now because my older brother, it was actually my sister at the time. He's transgender, so that was interesting too when that conversation came up because my mom wasn't really accepting of a lot of things. Like she told me when I moved out and I didn't want to come back that I needed therapy, and it was really that she had coping issues, not me, because I was just done. Like at that point, I was just finished. And then later on, I find out, when I did a star chart reading that I'm an Aries moon, which makes sense why I cut people off instantly. Like if I'm done with you, that's it. It's you get the chopping block and you ain't coming back. Like I'm done. And it makes a lot of sense. So why I do those kind of things. But like my fear of abandonment triggers a lot of times too. Anytime I feel like I'm in that situation, I get in this hyper mode. I start getting real upset, get real aggressive, get real angry, and I start pushing people away and things like that too. And I have three daughters of my own, and those poor kids went to hell with me because I always denied I had a problem. Like I didn't think I had an issue. I didn't realize that's why I was angry all the time. Was that just that moment I kept triggering back to. And their mom and I were the worst people to be to get around because we were so toxic for each other. She literally like knew how to trigger me. So then she triggered me, and then I get mad at them, and I'd be verbally abusive to them. Like I was physically abused too. I'll be honest with you, it was not a great childhood from him. We are in talking terms now, which is a lot better because I'm in a better place. I'm a way different person than I was before, but I was a horrible person to those poor kids. But it was just like it was just one of those things you went through and like you just denied that you had a problem for a long time, and it was hard because I was drinking, I wasn't sleeping a lot. I had their mom constantly triggering me, and I didn't think like these were normal. I didn't think there was anything of about it because I'm like, you get angry about things, but I got usually angry in certain situations where I just go flying off the handle. And before I started this show, I had I went to therapy because I was like, I had a moment with my wife at the time where she had said something to me, and all of a sudden I just went right off the rails for no reason, and I didn't know what triggered me about it. And I was like, man, there's something right here because I'm just flying off the handle, and things like that too. So when I went to therapy, I found out that I have anxiety, and then my anxiety feeds my depression, which that's always a fun thing to do because during the first season of the show, no one really knew how bad I was struggling. Like the room I was recording in, I never left that room at all. I stayed there all day, like literally until my wife got home around like 4 or 5. She got home like 5 o'clock most every day usually. I'd come out of there and go in the other room and act like I've been sleeping in the other room because I didn't want her to know because I was just struggling that bad. And people are like, hey, did you sleep? Wasn't sleeping either because I was recording the show 5 days a week. I'm recording a new episode every week and I was doing live episodes, and then I had to pull back and I moved to bulk recording now, which is so much better for me. So I record this show like every Mondays and Tuesdays. I'm usually like 4 to 5 people. I think the most I've ever done was 7 interviews. And I mean, I was caffeinated beyond belief. Like 3 Red Bulls in, and I'm out, like going. I'm humming at the speed of sound. And people are like, I told one of my guests that they're like, "What? How many of those have you had?" Well, I think I'm on number 3 right now. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you feeling all right?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm feeling great. What do you mean? I feel like I could fight God at this point." He's laughing at me like, "What the fuck?" But it's It's been an adventure since day one of doing this thing, though. But it's the evolutionary of Pete, though, because like I went from where I was to where I'm now, and like I've learned so many things along the way. Like energy sensitive, I'm empath, and then when I got into the second half of the season, we got into a real sticky situation. A guy in the beginning of the year, the first year, like 2025, right there in January, he was on the show and he was talking about his suicidal ideation. So this is kind of interesting how this came up. 15 minutes into the episode, he goes, "Hey, can I tell you something?" I was like, "Yeah, why not, man? Go ahead." And he's like, starts talking. He's like, "Well, this morning I had thoughts in my head. I'm sitting at the edge of bed with a gun in my hand, and I'm just like, oh God, we are going to get canceled at this
Wow.
point on YouTube. YouTube's gonna ban us." I'm like, this is not good. And I'm like, I'm keeping my cool, but in my head, I'm freaking out like, oh God, this is happening for real. Cause this is the first time we got into this subject, of like real deep into this conversation, and I was just like, oh no, this was just like, oh, but the reaction I got it from was so great because people are freaking out, going, "Oh my God, is he okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I talked to him already. He's good." People didn't really understand suicide ideation. They still really don't. I think a lot of people don't get how it works. Like his thoughts. But this guy was really on the edge. Brian was actually the guy's name. He was on the show. He was literally on teeter-totting on the edge. You could tell he was like upset about something. So apparently, Brian had lost his friend in December to suicide as well. His friend ended up taking his own life, and he'd been struggling with this whole thing. And I don't think he really told many people about it because, like, when after he talked to me about it, he seemed very, very eased and at relaxed. And he got it off his chest and things like that too. And that was like the turning point for me on this show because I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll start talking about my own thing because I'm a two-time survivor myself because you know. And most recently was the last time me and my wife and I, I'm currently in the middle of divorcing, but we uh we had talked about it, and she said to me, her exact statement was, "Make me the 13th reason why." Now, if anybody doesn't know what that reference is, that reference that Netflix show, 13 Reasons Why, the one where they had to change the ending of that show because it was so graphic. Because you're watching this girl cut her wrist in the bathtub, and you're watching it. There's no video cutaway, nothing. You're watching her do this right there in the tub, and it was so traumatizing to people. You should already seen that because it was like in the beginning, it was like if you have certain conditions, you should be watching this show. I'm like, okay, this is not good. Okay, so we get to the last one, and you're watching her, and she's watching the final scene because you see the cutscene in the beginning where she's in the tub. In the first episode you see it, but you don't know what happened and why she did it. But now you start replaying the different tapes. She had 13 tapes, and then all the tapes gave a different reason. What her reasoning behind everything, and piece of it just kept piecing it together till you got to the end of it. And where you're watching it, Netflix had to pull the show and edit that part at the end because it was too graphic for a lot of people to watch. And I'm like thinking, like, when you first put that out, you had to think about what you were putting out there. Was that real? That people are watching someone commit suicide live on a show? Even this is Netflix. I get this is a paid for subscription based thing. Like, HBO always pushed the limits, that kind of thing for us, Cinemax and all these other things. But this, I think, went a little too far for people because, they were like, hold up, this is really real. This girl's really doing this thing. And I'm watching it and I'm just like, yep, somebody's going to get upset with this. And lo and behold, somebody got upset with it. Everybody was going outraged, getting mad. But it's like, this is a real thing that happens, though. People don't know how to handle this subject. I get it at the same time. But my ex told me that that's what she said, to make me the 13th reason why is what she said, because I told her how I had thoughts. I had a plan. I was right there, close to it. And I was seconds away, and then something stopped me. And she was like, that's what her response was. And then she told me, well, this is not a good time to talk about it. Like we could repen this to another situation. It's like, yeah, see, the great thing about it is it's like it's not really a choice of when it happens. Like sometimes these come up in the most opportune times that people don't have time to talk about it. But at the same time, it's a real issue. Someone's telling you they're having these thoughts. I think the first thing you say to them is, "Are you okay?" And then you listen to what they have to say. Like, don't turn them away and go, "Well, we'll reschedule this for another day," and it doesn't work like that.
No, it's about the moment, isn't it? And I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing. And I think as well, when you just touched on that being a male as well, I started this platform for me
Hmm.
was about offering support and healing for other people, followers on the platform on TikTok. And to be honest, when I opened it, it was to basically put my books out there. That's what it was, because obviously I've written 4 books. Um and it was a platform for that. Started it in October. And then I didn't really do much with it, to be honest. I put an odd quote out my book up or a little picture from the book, things like that. And it was
Mm-hmm.
only, I'd say 5 weeks ago when I really thought, I'd built my own website. Okay. That is a healing, it's a healing website. So on that website, I have accounted for sort of more or less everything I could think of. So I've built it in hubs. So you've got a mental health hub, which covers every aspect of mental health, down to kind of like the ADHD side of things, the ASD, the depression, the anxiety, the loneliness, the grieving aspect of mental health, BPD, PDA, all that kind of thing is to be found there. Not only do you find all the information for all those things, there's also interactive tools as well. Now, I've built all this myself, okay? So
Yeah.
I know everything what has gone in it has come from me, okay? I've written everything. Everything is mine. Um, so there's interactive tools. You can write yourself a letter. You can do, you can do like how your mood is today, and it asks you so many questions. It'll give you little ideas of what to do to improve your mood, all things like that. Then you've got one for narcissistic abuse, all things like that. There's lots on it. And that gave me, when I finished the website, and then I thought, you know what, I need to push this now because I think social media for me in relation to mental health is trying to turn it into an aesthetic more than what it is. It's trying. It's not actually getting across what needs raising awareness. It's making it as if it's a trophy to, oh, I've just had my ADHD diagnosis. I've just had this. It's like it's something you need. It's like a gold medal. It's like, oh, I've got this now kind of thing. And I think it's the way
It's
social
almost
media
like
are
clickbait too.
portrayed.
It's almost like clickbait too. Think about it, because they're clicking it. Oh, or it's a hot button issue for the month. Oh, well, this month's mental health awareness. So you see all these videos, but then if you really watch what people still go with it, there's not a lot of people still staying in the game afterwards. They think it's just a one and done thing. It's not. It really isn't. And we have something similar like that here in the States. Actually, one of my guests on the show, Lisa Sugarman, has one that's called the helphub.co for out here. For us over here in the States, she had done the same thing like you were doing, but I don't think hers is as interactive as yours is. It's more like a lot of the information she piled together. She did it based on like different religion aspects too, like certain religions, you can only have certain guidelines for certain things. So she covered all those different things too. We met another guy, what's his name? Named Matt, that's in Canada, that has one. It's called the Mind something. I got to look it up, but it's something come Mind something, but similar to the same idea. It was like based for Canada, things like that. So I think that's really great that you have that though, because you guys are each doing something respectfully that makes sense though, because you're banking a place for people to find things, because a lot of people don't even know where to start. I think it's the most problem. It's like, hey, where do I start? And at least this way they have some information. Yours seems to be the most interactive though with what it does, because it's kind of like PsychPAL a little bit, because PsychPAL is a little bit like it's a companion to um it's a companion to therapy, basically. Like, it'll track your moods. You can talk to it. You can text to it. You can send it pictures, and it basically learns who you are as an individual. Now, when you're talking to it, it's learning more about you. That way, when you come to it in a certain situation, it's not therapy replacement. It will reach out to you if you need 988 needs to be called, or one of the emergency lines. It is definitely ready to start doing that too, because that is another one of the features. So I'll have it right there for you if it feels like you're in need of that kind of thing. So it's identifiable to that. But it's really cool though, because it's like you can send it pictures and it'll interpret for you to understand. And I know with certain people, like having BPD and all these other things, they don't understand things at the same level. Autism, sorry, is different for them too, because they don't understand everything the same way people do. So I think that's really cool what you're doing as well, because it's kind of understanding a little better about what the person that's using it needs, and it kind of suggests things that, and stuff like that too. And PsychPal's kind of similar like that too for us. They're based out of Canada, but they're like, they learn who you are and then they talk to it, and it talks from back, and it'll help them, like, hey, listen, break it down so like they can understand it, for different people too. So I have other people trying it to see what their testimonials are. And what I'm going to do is put a video together for everybody to see everybody's experiences, because, I know when it comes to a lot of these things, people are scared of AI, but I think it's more of it's how you use it versus like you being really worried about what it's going to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I do. When you came on, Pete, was you more about general, like mental health, all in, or is it more? Are you looking at doing sort of like pushing out for like male mental health as well?
I'm covering everything. In the beginning, it was the same thing. It was just like, I put this idea out there. The thing blew off the handle. I was crazy. I had like 150 Facebook messages because this started in a Facebook group. I just put it out there. I got approached by a network to join them right away to do live episodes. They're like, "Hey, we're a new network. You want to come do this?" And the idea of the show was just mental health awareness. Not just men, not just we're talking about everything, but being a male that's talking about this and other males that join me on here, we're beating the statistic already because a lot of males don't talk about it, as we know with the suicide stats. It's just insane. Like 80% of them are males. It's like, think about it. We're at 177,000 like a few months ago, and it's how many of those are males if you think about it? 80% of that number is probably going to be a male, or most of the majority of it are going to be males, because they don't talk about it. Because every time we say something, people trying to shut you down and saying, "Oh, well, you're not supposed to have feelings and this and that. You're supposed to man up," and all these other things they tell you. So, in the beginning, the show had always been the same thing. It was just like inviting other people to come on and talk about this, and I didn't think I was going to get anybody on, honestly. But then I had like a whole like slew of people just lining up, and it was crazy. Like in the first half of the year, I was already booked to the end of the year. And I was like, damn, okay, well, I've got something here. So I opened a second time slot where I was doing a 3 p.m. live show and shot off to the end too. So come November, I discovered that we have digital calendars that do schedules and things like that. So I put one of those implemented. I kid you not when I tell you that this thing shot off to April within a week. We're already in April 2025, people lining up to be on this show. Then we got to July by the end of the year of just people lining up on those 2 time slots. Now the way I do it now is I bulk record it and I preset it ahead of time. So like that way I have time so I can juggle things better. But before I was trying to do like 5 days a week. And I think in March alone, I did like 35 interviews at 5 days a week, all different times. And I wasn't really sleeping much either. And I work overnight. So like I work a night job. So like I come home and record this, but it was interesting though that all these people just kept coming. They kept coming and kept coming. And I just kept watching it keep going. I'm like, holy crap, I'm almost in October now. I'm almost in November now. And like, it was just insane to see that how many people wanted to be on the show and had so many things to say. And we've had interesting stories since, the first time. I think the first guy I interviewed was a military veteran. He was like 22 years in the Marines, and he had so bad a PTSD and everything else that he was dealing with. He could barely go to the store, get a loaf of bread, and come home and not be mentally drained from it all. And you could tell he got upset on air. This man was crying on the air and everything too because he was so emotional about what he was talking about because it was rough to hear. Got in a Humvee explosion and things like that. And it just got crazier. Like the guests just kept going. The next week it was the woman who said she died on the table like 12 times. And I was like, this just got more interesting by the minute. It was just like, whoa, hold on. We got a lot of things going here, and now where I'm at now, like I get emails like every day of people like saying they've heard an episode, they want to be on the show and things like that too. So I'm always looking for new people. When I came across your live, I was talking to you and then you sent me what you sent me, your thing. I was like, wow, that's a lot. Like, I mean, you've been through a lot, but you've accomplished a lot too. So like hats off. You didn't let it stop you. You just kept going though.
I think I could have. I think if it wasn't of the strong mind, what I've actually got, I think I could have. I'm one of them people who, if someone tells me I can't do something, that
Yeah.
makes me want to do it. So when is an example for you, okay? So when I had my daughter, my first, I've got 4 children now, okay? They're all grown up now. But when I had my first child, I thought, right, I need to sort my head out. I need to get therapy. I need to go to college. Because I'd left school, obviously, before the age I should have, never sat an exam. So I went to college, went to college. I had to start. It was called an access course over here. I don't know what it's called over your way. There's basically a year-long course and you get your maths, your English, your IT, and then you do some subjects. Um, I decided to do law, criminal justice and sociology alongside the maths and English. And my granddad said to me, because the year before the access had done interior design for the year, and my granddad said, and I love him to bits, he's passed now, but he said, you would not last 2 minutes doing law rights. That's what he said to me. So I had 2 cousins who we didn't really bother with, and they were sort of really snobby. And one of them was going to do law and one was going to do accountancy. So I said to my granddad, if I wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant, I would be a lawyer or an accountant. And he said, You wouldn't last 2 minutes. So that to me, that was what I needed. That was the bullet loaded in my gun then, yeah. So what did I do? Finished my access course, got into university, done my law degree. The day I graduated, I went to see my granddad, and he was like, I only said that so you'd do it. That's what he said with a cheeky laugh. But then obviously then I done postgraduate. And obviously I went into family law, and I went into family law because of my upbringing, to be fair. And I always wanted to be the protector. So I went into public over here. It's called public law, which is where you're dealing with the local authority. So when children have been removed from the home and stuff, so that's what it was about. So that was for like 8 years. In that time, I sat on the board at a domestic violence organisation which helped women and men who were victims of domestic violence. So what I'd do, them service users, if there was an emergency, I'd come up, I'd get it into court, get them a non-molestation order, which might be called an injunction over your side.
Yeah.
Get them one of those in place and things. And it was only then that the penny actually dropped for me when I used to say, why did you stay with him, to me mum? Why didn't you leave? And I never understood. And it was only at that point when I was speaking to those service users and working with those service users that it wasn't easy to just walk away from an abusive relationship. And I think obviously with going through the practice of everything and the law side of things and whatnot, all the rates, and I don't know whether it's the same over percentages where you are, but the risk gets way higher when you actually leave that person. That's when you should be worried. That is when the danger alert is on red. And it just struck a chord with me at that point. And I think it was at that point when I actually forgave my mum. I'd never I'd never blamed her for that, what happened. But I did have resentment for the fact that we witnessed it and the fact that we were always shipped in and out by the police to foster carers, and we ended up in different places. Sometimes we were separated from each other, and and it was all because she kept going back and going back and going back. And it was only at that point when I sat and I thought, you know what? It wasn't because she didn't want to leave him. It was because she felt she couldn't.
Yeah.
And my mum had put up with so much in relation to beatings and strangulations and everything you can think of. But I still blamed her at a certain point in my life until then. And I realised at that point it was, it was something beyond her control, should I say.
Yeah.
And obviously then going into counselling and CBT therapy and trauma therapy, that opened my eyes even more as to the wider picture. And it was only at that point now I can talk about this now because it doesn't have an effect on me now. Because I think you've got to own being a victim before you can actually move on. Because if you don't, you're giving your abuser the victory. So if you can identify to yourself, well, yes, I am a victim and it's not my fault that I'm a victim, you're taking that away from your abuser. So you're not giving them any more power over you and over sort of the impact it's had on your life. And I felt so much lighter when I actually realised and I told myself, yes, you were a victim. I didn't want to acknowledge I was a victim. You don't want to be a victim. Who
Yeah.
wants that title?
Yeah, especially what you've gone through, though. I mean, it's hard. Like we had a guest whose actual episode dropped the day we're recording now. She told me in the interview that she was actually being made fun of because she was sexually assaulted. I was like, "Oh, hold up!" I got mad to this thing too. I got mad. I was like, "Excuse me?" I said, "Look, hold on a second." And I just went, "You know what? If you're giving somebody a hard time about being sexually assaulted and you're making fun of them, what the fuck is wrong?" I went off for like 5 minutes, and this poor girl's like, "Okay, Pete." But it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I
So
think
think
it's
about it, like, why?
accepting it.
Yeah, but why are you gonna make fun of somebody for that? They didn't. It's not like they woke up and said, "Hey, listen, I want to get assaulted by." No, that's not how that works.
No, that's absolutely disgraceful. It is because that's sort of minimising the trauma, what's happened to you, and that is just
Exactly.
unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. I just don't understand how people's minds work sometimes. But as I said, I am, you know, I'm not saying like I'm over it. I am over that in that respect. But I hold no anger anymore. Where I
Yeah.
did at one point, I self-harmed. I tried taking tablets, and I'm talking about years and years and years ago, um, to try and deal with things, and I realized that, I'm here and I've got a path where I can help other people to go through this. And I'm an empath as well, Pete. And I tend to draw sort of people who have got, well, here's an example, okay? So my room on TikTok, okay? So my basis of my room is a no judgment room, okay?
Hmm.
You show up as your true, authentic self. Do not have a mask because you don't need it, okay? No, obviously, no negativity will be tolerated because I believe there should be safe spaces, and that's what I put out. It's a safe space. And everybody, I could say, and I'm going to say 99% of people who are now regulars to my room are all neurodivergent in one way or another. And I do believe that I think we attract those types of people, and we're building and growing this amazing community now who we've got a mixture. We've got women who've been abused. We've got women who've obviously escaped that kind of trauma. We've got addictions, people who are nearly almost like a year sober free or substance free. Um, We've got um, we've got people from the LGBTQ community who come in who've suffered with bullying and all kinds of things.
Hmm.
We've got a lot of men now with mental health, and I absolutely love it because the vibe what I'm trying to put out there is everybody is equal in here. Nobody's higher than anybody else. And what's happening now when people actually come in, they're having conversations with each other. And that is exactly what I wanted because even though it's as a community room, it's not a grab room. It
Yeah.
means
No, I
something.
get
So
you.
obviously I have me normal little lively rooms. I also do obviously the blind poetry, which is getting so much emotion out to people on a Sunday. So I offer my followers a space. I have 20 spaces every week, okay? They message me and say soul, that's the word, soul, and I'll send them a little information sheet. So most of these poems, they're hard hitting. And I talk like it's the tears. So every Sunday at 8 p.m., I will have created a personalized poem for each of these followers. Okay. They do not know what is in that poem until they hear me read that poem out on the Sunday evening. Okay. So they've sent me the bare minimum of whether it's about childhood trauma, whether it's about domestic violence, whether it's about suicide, whether it's about grief, losing someone, anything. We had one about toxic parent,
Yeah.
narcissistic parent. And I literally will write them all a poem, and I will literally sit and read those poems out to that
That's
person
so
that
cool.
night.
That's really
And
cool. There's somebody.
I'm now on
th-
week 5 of doing that because it's so popular. So we then started last week, letters we never send. Now, I've got this on my website. So there could be a time when I did this myself over my abuser. I wrote a letter to get all my emotions out, all my
Mhm.
anger out, everything in this, because that is a letter what will never be sent, but it's away from me. It's not in my mind anymore. It's away from me.
Exactly.
So now, as soon as I said to my followers about this, I was inundated. So last week, I had 18 letters to read. That one is all anonymous, by the way. So anybody who they write their own letter and they send it to me. It's read out anonymously. So we've done the first one last week. The feedback was, wow, that was a weight being lifted. The emotions were heavy. Some people messaging says the first time I've slept in 6 months because I feel like I've let go of something. And that is what I'm trying to do on this platform. I'm trying to give people that space to be themselves and to get rid of any negativity and anything they don't need to hold on to. And that's what I'm trying to do on the platform. And that's why I do a lot of spoken words. And most of the feedback from them is I'm saying things what people can't put a name to, all like different ones. And that when I found you, when you come in my room, and I found you. And obviously then we spoke about obviously the podcast and stuff. And the first thing I did, I went on YouTube. You'll see, because obviously, the name and stuff now, I did subscribe to your channel on there. Um, so because I've been asked a few times to be a guest on a podcast and stuff. And I've always gone and checked out the host and seen what it was about. And as I said, it's not always about what we're going to be talking about. It goes to more aesthetics, how people look, how they're coming across on it and stuff. And I've just said, no, sorry, I'm busy or whatnot. But when I've seen yours, it's raw and it's real. And there's no, what's the word? It's not aesthetic. It's not about, oh, you need to do it this way. We need to do it this way. It's raw and real.
No.
And what you're asking, this isn't rehearsed. You're asking me this question for the first time. I'm answering you for the first time. And that's what makes it so raw and so real. And that is why I was so happy to do this with you today. So I just had to get that out.
No, I agree though, because there's a guest that's returning for a recording this Saturday. She was on episode 54. She said the same thing. She's like, ever since I was on the show, she's like, it was so different, like I could come talk to you and it was great, and there was a lot of people said. I even had a guy from CNN, John Dukakis, came on. He reached out to me to be on the show. Now, this is funny because John reached out to me and then he came on and we were talking and he stops like 20 minutes in and says, hey, listen, Pete, I want to tell you, I love the way you interview. This coming from a guy with 22 years experience journalism, seen all these things around the world, worked with Wolf Blitzer and CNN, all these other things. He's been doing all these things. He came to me and said, hey, listen, I like the way you interview. So it's really flattering when people say that, because it's like, I honestly, be honest with you, I don't even like really look at much beforehand, unless it's like, like a certain author coming and we're talking about a book. I'll prepare a little bit more there, but normally it's no prep. I usually just come straight in and we go right into the conversation depending on what it is, because the authenticity comes off in the emails I'm getting from people and the response I'm getting. And, like you said, you went over there, checked it out, and you were like, wow, okay, yeah, you get lots of offers going podcasts all the time, so it was great when you said yes. But I heard you say that, I was like, damn, dude, I'm like, you're not wrong though, me, because I hate those people who are like, oh, well, let's talk about the questions at a time, or how about let's just jump right into it? How about that? I was just kind of see. Like, I don't really agree with that format where people send questions at a time, or like, well, I'm like, one guy I did it with, though, he's a good friend of mine. Andy runs a podcast, the Ride Along podcast with Flat Tire Andy. He sent me this list of questions. I didn't even look at them. I was like, yeah, man, we're just going to go into these things. But we were going for like 2.5 hours in our interview when we did it. We were just going for like ever, just talking about everything. And we get off caught in these tangents and things like that. So, when I started the show, that was the one thing that I did get told, though, by my ex. She was like, you have to be authentic in this space, because if not, people could read through crap. And I'm like, okay, makes sense. And at first it was kind of like, I started figuring out what she was meaning by that, because at first it was kind of like, I did a little more research on these people. And I'm like, you know what? I woke up one day and was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go for it, man. Let's just see what happens if I don't do a lot of prep and I just come in and show up as is. Like, I'll show up in like random things. I don't even care. Like, it don't matter how I look. Like, I'll come in some days with just like hats on, t-shirts on, hoodies on. It doesn't matter. I've got like 10,000 different. I have no prep to this thing. I don't look for anything else. I look for the stories alone. Like I said, I had John Dukakis come tell me I'm doing a great job, which would met the world to me. I almost passed on the damn floor over here. I was like, hold up. But that was the point of the show. It's like, that's how you approach everything, though. Like, it's raw and just straight to the point. And when I edit them, I really don't edit. I just clean up the audio a little bit, unless there's something to take out. Like, we did a series on suicide awareness with a woman named Reshna Carney. She came on, and this woman had a story to tell. Her husband, unfortunately, took his life. She told the kids about it at the ages, I think there were 7 and 9, the two youngest ones. And she was telling them about this. And the way she went about it was so interesting, but then like after we were done interviewing, she said, hey, there's something I said in there I don't like. And that was the great thing about pre-recording these episodes, is I can cut out that stuff. Like I was telling you, like certain situations come up. I've had a lot of interesting situations pop up, but the authenticity is still there. Like, I don't really doctor anything, like, unless I'm really like, someone says something that I'm like, I don't really think that's a good idea, but I'll let them know what I cut out. Like, hey, listen, I had to take up this part. I felt like it came wrong. Just like in her situation, she was like, yeah, I kind of feel like this comment we made didn't come off too right. I think we should pull it out of there. I said, listen, you want it gone? It's gone. Without a question, I'll pull it out instantly, because I'm respectful of everybody. I've had people come in and share some of the wildest stories we've ever heard in my life on this show. And, so far, season 3 has been interesting with a lot of people. So one of the girls I did want to introduce you to, her account is actually called Rise of the Phoenix. That's what her episode was titled as, because the story she told us was one of the wildest things I've seen, and I've been ranking these, like, honestly, just, it's like, the level of intensity. You're right up there though. Like if people knew exactly what that paper said, you're up there, like way up there. But it's like, it's not, it's only because like I need people to understand that these are real stories that people are telling, man. These are intense. Like I'm sitting here listening to these things, and as an empath, and you would know, like you feel these things people are saying, man. It's draining some days. Like hers, I was a little messed up afterwards because I was just like, wait, what? She's like, you were pretty speechless half the other half. I'm like, yeah, because we got to the point where you're like, well, I went downstairs, I drank bleach, cut my wrists, and my brother found me laying there, pretty much left for dead. I'm like, wait, what just happened with Secrets in Advance? I was like, holy shit, what? But it's like, but it's authentic though. It's like it's really just me, and I keep it as real as possible, and I use a matching site for a lot of that stuff too. And I'm literally going through all like I'll know what the subject's about, but other than that, like I'll highlight some of the things in the intros and things for people. But other than that, we just get into the conversation, see where it goes. So with that being said, we're going to get into one of the questions I'm sure you already know that gets asked on this show. So my question to you is, if your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be? This is a fun one now. We've had some interesting answers to this question.
If my mental health had a song, I think it would probably be um, Lean on Me.
Okay. That's a good one.
That song for me has been one what I've listened to for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the words of, lean on me when you're not strong.
Mhm.
I'll be your friend. And I think it's the lyrics, to be fair. So yeah, I think if my mental health had a song, it would definitely be Lean on Me.
That
Definitely.
that that would be the first entry to our list of songs we've had. We had Rage Against the Machine, Taylor Swift's mentioned on this one. Michael Jackson got mentioned a few times. A few of them I didn't really know who the hell they were. There's some random artist someone said, but I went and checked them out anyways because I was curious. But it's always interesting because every time I ask you that question, someone are like, just like, damn, that's a great question. Because music is a big thing for all of us. Think about it. Like you're always, whenever I come in, you're always listening to music. You have music going in the background. I'm a big music guy. I literally had an hour-long conversation with a guy from Minnesota that he was using music to help some of these kids get through some of their emotions and things. And he had unfortunately lost a girl that was 12 years old. He recorded this song called Weird Hearts. Now 12 hours after they started recording this song, the girl had taken her life. And, unfortunately, she was no longer there. So we were remembering her, talking about her and things like that. But we got into this whole hour-long conversation about music and things like that. And Joseph, he was great. We had a great time with him and things like that too. So I actually stole that question from a friend of mine. She has a podcast and it's an award-winning one now. She won an award. I don't remember exactly what the award was, but she runs one called The Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. When she came on the show, she asked me the same question. And I don't remember what my original answer was because I've changed mine. Mine goes from anxiety song would be, oh no, I can't remember now. Okay, so Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that intro, when they intro the song, that it's like that's what my anxiety feels like. So now it's kind of similar to a song by Bad Omens called Artificial Suicide. It's like that constant strumming because when my anxiety goes, man, it's going. My heart's racing 1,000 miles an hour. But I've learned that when that happens, it usually indicates there's something there that my anxiety is trying to tell me something's wrong. And it's like a superpower. It's really interesting because a lot of times I'm almost right on the point, for when it comes to that kind of thing. So like when it's going, that's what it feels like. And then my depression songs were different kind of pain by Cold, and then Leave the Light On, Talk Away the Dark by Papa Roach, because the video alone is very powerful. The end of the video is very powerful where they mention, if you need help, 988. And they've always been a real big, I've loved them forever. You things like that too. But I listen to a lot of music though, like all these different ones. Like I picked different artists that will do the intro song. So like season two's intro song was Is It Me by a band called Let Me Bleed. I found on TikTok. But we've had a few artists on the show. We had Lucy Lenore from the band Hunter, found out that she had BPD. Didn't even know anything about her like that until she came on. She was telling us about that. We had Alex from Live and Stone come on. We've had Bryce from Pretty Suspect come on, and I know he had a lot of mental health issues too. He discussed, but he does this punk. He does an emo band out of Eugene, Oregon, and then we've had the band Lives Lost come on too. And we've had all these different guys and their perspectives come on. It's so interesting to hear because Lives Lost, most of their songs are about his mental health struggles. Tanis is the lead singer of that band. He and another guy, and one of the other members of the band, Chad, came on, and we were all just kind of hanging out talking for a bit. So it's so unique when people say that, like, it's either it's the lyrics or it's the song. It's like because my ex-wife was big into music like that too, and she's like, "Do you ever listen to the lyrics of the song?" Some of them, no, I didn't. Like a lot of Bush songs, I went back and started listening to and realized like, wow, Gavin, we're having a real interesting trip here, bro. Like a great song, but then you realize what he's really talking about. You're like, wait, okay, hold on, man. I still like him to this day. It doesn't matter. I'll still listen to him, but it's so interesting. So like this season is actually a young gentleman I met. His name is Note. He came on and he had a song called Trust the Process was the original song. We went through the whole process of talking about his song and everything like that. So it was interesting to get his thoughts on it and everything. Been a big support ever since he's been on the show, and things like that too, and it's been real great. So I love it when I come in and you're just so excited to see me and talking about it because it's a needed topic to be talked about. Like think about it. Like we are losing too many people, regardless, men, women, children, whatever. It's getting ridiculous. 10 to 14 is on the uprise. Okay. That's scary. 10 to 14 is way too young for us to be losing people, And then a good friend of mine, Uncle Jimmy and I, we get together every Wednesday and we were talking about social media. Okay. And it's interesting because when we looked at the statistics, it said over 50% of kids reported that social media has a negative effect on their mental health, everything negative in general, which is not surprising because think about what they're looking at these days. All these images, there's so much information coming at once, and we can only process so much at once. So, what are they processing is the real question now, because like they're seeing all these scantily clad women, they're hearing these men talk to these women in very vulgar manners. And it's like they think that these are the ways that we should be treating these ladies or treating these men, And I got the one guest I am referring to that's coming back, Natalie had come on, and that was her name, was Natalie is her name. She goes by Whitney though. So she came on and it was interesting because when I met her first, she was a very pretty girl, had a crazy fucking story. Like the story was just wild. We went up and down the whole way through. So when her end of the episode, she did make a very powerful statement. She said that my name is Whitney. I deal with my mental health. It doesn't own me. And she was very upset when she said it, but it's a very powerful message she made. She said since she's been on the show, people have been reaching out to her to talk to her all the time about her story and things like that. So she's coming back to fill us in where she's out. So I talked to her the other day for like an hour. We were having a great chat. But it's funny to see how these guys react to her. Like they start saying these nasty things to her, and she just brushes it off. But it's like she's just watching them do these things, and it's like these younger guys are coming and watching them do this, degrading women or men. Either way, you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't need to be necessary. The bullying of people because they don't like that they're not straight. They're into guys or it's like I don't give a fuck what you do behind closed doors. That's your business. Do whatever you want. Hey, more power to you. My brother's in the community. I support him 100%. I've been his biggest support since day one. Like I knew that he was gay. It was like didn't bother me one fucking bit. It didn't change how I felt about him. And that's the way it should be for everybody. But everybody seems to forget that at the end of the day. We forget kindness is one thing that we don't have to pay for. And that's why I always close out the show. One kind act can save someone's life because you don't know if the last interaction you have with somebody is the last interaction they'll ever have with them or somebody in general. Think about it. Like I always teach my kids, hey, remember the last thing you say to somebody because if you may not be able to say that, and now you got to take that back the next time you see them because they may not be here. And it's the same thing, and it's such a hard subject to have, but it's at the same time, it's like we're not talking about this stuff enough. I don't care what people say. Like the statistics say that we're not. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, we're talking. Where? I'll wait. You know what I mean? It's like where are we talking about this stuff? And when we do, people get so offended or they get so like irked or like, well, you need to go into a mental hospital. Or you need to go this or you need to go get help. It's like, but we're all doing these kind of things.
I don't think people want to accept sometimes. Like I've got lots of tattoos, but I don't know whether you can see this one. It says 60 seconds.
I like it.
And I got that for the reason of if someone said to you right now, you've got 60 seconds to live, what would be your biggest regret? What would you have wanted to do with your life in 60 seconds? Now I'm looking
That's
at
a
you
good
now.
question.
That 60 seconds is gone now, Pete. It's gone. You can't even think.
Yeah.
This is the thing. And that reminds me every single day when I brush my teeth, because that's why I got it there. So I can be reminded of that every day to give gratitude for every day because we just don't know what day is going to be our last. And we've got to make the most of it every day what we've got. So that for me was like, I've got about 40, maybe 45 tattoos. And out of all my tattoos, that is the one I look at every single day.
Well, like it's funny you say that because, like your 60 seconds is very symbolic. Like now I ask people, hey, how's your mental health? Because if you think about it, if I were to ask you, hey, Echo, how you doing? You say, okay, that's it. The conversation ends. But if I say, hey, Echo, how's your mental health? You would be like, oh, then it'd be a different conversation because now you're really thinking about what I just said to you. And you're like, wait a minute, hold up. Why did you ask me that question? And then you could lead in with, well, hey, listen, I noticed you were struggling, or things that you could lead into opening the conversation. So there's a guy I know that tried it. He was trying with other people, said it when he asked people that question, a lot of people responded in a different way. And I was like, well, I mean, think about it. You're asking them a whole different question. You're not giving them a chance and out. You're not giving them a one word answer or giving them that chance to say, well, I'm okay. And then they lie to you because they don't want to tell you really what's going on because they don't know what you're going to say to them, in a lot of those aspects. And it's like it's horrible, But if you know any, like I do have a side project though I do as well, which I've been working on now is called Voice of the Voiceless. So the idea of the show is exactly that. Same thing that you do with your poetry readings, your letter writing, and things like that too. And things like that, where people can come on, tell their story, and we'll label them as Voice of the Voiceless because a lot of people want, and somebody had asked me, why do people want to be anonymous? I said, because sometimes those stories are too hard for people to own. Like they don't want other people to know that's what's happened to them because they don't know how people are going to look at them. It's like people know that you try to commit suicide. You know how many people look at you weird right after that? They're like, oh, well, we got to treat you like a little kid now. No, that's even worse. They do the direct opposite of things that are supposed to, that would make sense. Like, oh, let me treat you differently. No, don't do that. It's like, understand that they've gone through this and just understand that you making them feel weirder is even worse. And especially with addiction too. I get they used to be a different person, but you have to remember they were in an altered state of mind when they were doing these things, and they're trying to change. Like you need to support them. Like, are they going to mess up? Yeah, it's going to happen. Let's face the facts. It happens, but you being there to support them and just be like, hey, listen, it's all right. Just pick yourself back up and go. It's cool. I don't think enough people do that. I think most people are just like, they want to come down on people. Oh, you do this and that. And they think that's the way to go, but it's really not, And doing the show, I've learned so many different things about stuff like that. Addiction wasn't one of those I really knew much about at first, but I met a lot of different people, and it's always like every time I see somebody says, oh, I'm X amount of days. So, okay, cool. Awesome. That's great. 5 days. Let's celebrate it. 1 day. Let's celebrate it. Just make it feel like it's the biggest thing ever. Hey, listen, you're going to have days where you fall down, man. It's okay. And that's the whole, probably the whole podcast situation was like, that was going to be our safe space. Like whatever you tell me in these four walls, I don't judge you. I don't care what you've done. That's your own prerogative. Like, do you need somebody to support you? Send me where I got to go. Like I support all their podcasters. There's a couple young guys I met on Instagram that have been on their show twice now. And it's these two young guys, 21, and I think the other guy's like 23 or something, but two young guys just having general conversations about life. And it's interesting to hear their thoughts because you're hearing it from the younger perspective versus where I'm at because I'm 40. So my perspective is different, but we got along no problem. We had a great conversation. I came back and visited them for episode 20 because most podcasters don't make it past episode 20. Heck, a lot of them don't even make it that far. I think most people make it past like 5 sometimes because they don't realize the work that goes into this. You're like, I spend hours doing this stuff, preparing it, doing things like that. And then the editing part, and then I got to post it everywhere and things like that too. So I go around and spend a lot of time doing the show, but at the same time, it's not like work to me. I love it. Every time I hit record these conversations, it's great because it's a new person that's coming in and telling you something new, and stuff like that because you learn different things from the people. You meet all these different people doing really interesting things. You hear people's stories and people feel empowered. Like I said, my friend Whitney was telling me, she said that it felt so great to get it off her chest. She felt good. She said people were reaching out to everybody else, trying to get a hold of her. It's just great to hear because people are like, I heard you on the podcast. I'm interested to talk to you and things like that. And they wanted her to come talk about her own story with other people. She got invited to somewhere in the UK to do a show as well. Like when we were live on the air, somebody had reached out to her. It was like, hey, listen, can I talk to you about being on a show? And so she'll be back again. And, it's been kind of cool because I've had a 4-time returning member. When I told her this, by the way, Echo, she's like, oh, really? I got a title now? Like, man, you've been here 4 times, man, more than everybody else. You hold the record for the most appearances on this show. She goes, oh, great. I got a title now. I was like, okay, all right, whatever, fine. So with that being said, we're going to get to the last question before we start wrapping this thing up, okay? So my question to you is if you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, when I ask you this question, I'm asking you from the aspect of something you just want people to stop believing. What would you say that would be in your own experience?
Breaking the stigma, let me see. that it's not. I have so much to say about this, Pete. I do. I have so much to say about it. And I think, for me, I think breaking the stigma would be for people to start to believe that mental health is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something you'd carry with shame. It's something what I'd say a majority of people suffer with without knowing, um, without realizing that that's what it is. Because sometimes people think, oh no, well, I haven't, I've said to my friends in the past, oh, you've got ADHD, or because I've seen the mannerisms and things, what they do and the behaviors and stuff. And obviously one of my books, which I'll show you really fast, this is on ADHD and it's on mental health. So this is
I love it.
based around autism, ASD, all mental health things. And I've said in the past, about you're this, and he said no, because it's embarrassing for them. It's an embarrassment. So I think breaking the stigma, I think we need to raise more awareness to say it's okay. It's okay to feel like this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not different, and you're not an alien because you are struggling with these emotions. There's help out there, and we need to raise more awareness, especially to men's mental health, because women's mental health, it gets talked about an awful lot. I don't think we do that with men as much, because for men, they've been brought up differently, haven't they? We all know that. But I think the stigma, because with men, it's embarrassment, it's shame, it's the man up kind of thing. And I think people need to break through that and say, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to feel that way, and don't feel any guilt for feeling that you're not human, should I say. So you're not the norm. You're not the norm person. Who is normal, Pete? Nobody's normal. Not one of
Exactly.
us can stand here and say we're normal. We've all got issues, whether that's mental health, whether that's just our behaviors, our anger, or whatever. Everybody's got an issue, and it's owning who you are. It's owning who you are, identify it. Well, yeah, I might need some help to address this, but it doesn't make me less of a person. So I think we need to push awareness out there to say it's okay to be this way. There's nothing wrong in you having issues.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, Echo, thank you so much for coming and hang out with me. This was a pleasure. I've been looking for this all week, man. I was like, yes, I get to talk to Echo. I get to meet a little more about her. I mean, like I said, you've accomplished a lot, though. What you've been through and to where you're now, 4 books published, all these other things you've accomplished, man. You're just not letting anything go. You're holding these lives for everybody to come hang out in. You're always positive, really bubbly, and it's great. I know you're making somebody's day. So before we start wrapping up, do you want to plug where everybody can find you? Like, where they can find your books and all that good stuff? Just lay it on them. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so all my books are on Amazon. All
Okay.
4 of the books are on Amazon. My website is www.don'ttiltyourcrownsis.co.uk.
That's so
Do you like that?
great. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Where can they find you on TikTok? Go in and plug your name too, because we got to send them over there
Yeah,
to find you, of course.
Echoed Poise on TikTok. That's the only platform I use, to be fair. Can I just say before I go that
Go right ahead.
just for your people who are watching, okay, that your beginning does not get to decide your ending. So trauma may explain parts of your story, but it does not have to write the whole script. Healing, yes, it's hard. Rebuilding is hard. But facing yourself is also hard. But there is another side. And sometimes the most beautiful purpose is born from the places that once tried to break you. So what I would say is I turned survival into service. And that was what I wanted to say.
I love it. Absolutely. Well, Echo, thank you so much again for being here. This was fantastic. You are welcome to come back anytime you like.
Thank you.
Anytime. Listen, you let me know. You're welcome to come back, guys. And with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. You know where to find me. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety on Spotify, all the way down to Pandora Radio. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, it can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, signing off saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health?